Jean-René Matignon, Technical Director and Winemaker of Château Pichon-Longueville. We're here to taste the vintage 2010. Do you have any comments on the new vintage?
Another good vintage, I'm sorry to tell you that. Again, after a wonderful 2009, we had a wonderful weather with a bit more dryness compared to last year. We miss about 40-50% of normal rain. But we had a very good light exposure, to be able to get, the best, the optimum ripeness on our fruit. Also, the temperature was a bit colder than usual, but that pushed, the ripeness in October. We had to wait end of September, beginning of October to start to pick our grapes, and hopefully the weather was wonderful. And good condition, to pick and to be able to sort all the grapes carefully and to pick block by block, to be able to do winemaking, pure grapes from each terroir very carefully, and to adapt our work to the vineyard and to the vintage.
And if you compare the style of 2010 to 2009, if you're not comparing the weather pattern but the actual wine, is there lots of difference?
The style of the wine is a bit different. We have a bit more freshness on the 2010. The fruit on the wine is a bit more present, with a bit more tannin also, that give to the wine a bit more body. A bit more freshness, and I'm sure that this vintage have to wait a bit longer to compare to 2009. For example, we can take by the past, the comparison with, for example, 59 and 61. I'm sorry to have to compare to this vintage, but for example, 61 was a vintage. A wonderful vintage, but to keep, and 59 is a vintage with a wonderful ripeness, and could be drunk much more faster compared to the 61. I think it's this kind of comparison you could have on these two vintages.
And regarding the different grapes as well, I know you use Cabernet Sauvignon, you use Merlot, you use Cabernet Franc in some years as well. Yes. How was vintage 2010? Was it a Cabernet-based vintage or?
Yes, it's one of the most important percentage of Cabernet in our blend. It's 79% Cab Sauvignon and 21% Merlot. We miss the Cab Franc and we miss the Petit Verdot. There is a big reason, our Cab Franc are not well located for this kind of vintage, and we prefer, we didn't even use it for the second wine. We keep it for the generic wine. Also, there is a lower level of Merlot because of the weather during the spring. We had colder weather, and we lost a bit of grapes during the flowering period, mainly with the Merlot old vines. It's why in our blend we have a bit less Merlot than usual for Pichon Baron. Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you take back if we talk a little bit of the history of the Château Pichon Baron, is there anything specific which has happened over the years, or is there anything new which has happened in recent years?
Every year is different, and the most important for us, is to do the best job in the vineyard, and we have all vines in our best terroir. On the winery, we built a new cellar underground to be able to age a bit longer, to have more place to age our wines. This is the last. It was built in 2006. It's the last news from the wineries. Also, something new, very new is a new optical sorting table. We are able now to sort automatically, the grapes with a new technology, a new optical technology, and this is very new for us. We tried 3 years ago, and we make this big change for the new vintage, for the 2010 vintage. this is the newest things, you know, but you know, it's every year is different, and you have something new every year. You know that it's a base of our work to be flexible to the weather, flexible to adapt our work to the new vintage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and enjoy your tasting of Pichon-Baron.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yes. This is the most important, the quality of the wine and the